4 years ago, I made a decision that changed absolutely everything for me. It changed my relationships, it changed who I was having relationships with, and it changed my business massively. Well, truth be told, not exactly 4 years just yet. It'll be 4 years this August, and that decision was to give up alcohol. It was to give up the booze. So what you're going to get from this video is why I did it, what changed, and the 3 things that you can apply to your life if you want to actually do the same thing. I'm going to share those things with you at the end of this video. Now, I want to give you some context and give you some understanding of why I made those changes as we roll through. And I've taken some notes that I want to get through. But I suppose to get started, you've probably already guessed, I'm Irish. And in the Irish culture, alcohol is deeply rooted. I grew up as a child of the 80s and the 90s. I'm the youngest of 7, 5 brothers, 2 sisters. So alcohol played a big part in all of our lives. It played a big part in growing up. It played a big part in our culture. Family gatherings, celebrations, weddings, birthday parties, aunties and uncles coming over, sing songs, all that different type of stuff was something that I experienced and grew up with. And it had some fantastic memories, but it also had some not fantastic memories. And what I started to see within myself as I started to get older was some of the patterns in alcohol and the destructive nature of it for me. And when you're doing these things in your 20s, that's fine. It's almost like a learning curve for you. You get a by ball, let's say, and you can get away with some of those things. But as you start to get a wee bit older, it's not as acceptable, and you just can't get the by ball anymore, because you should know from experience what you're repeating. So alcohol's played a major part in my life. It played a major part in most people that I hung around with as a kid growing up, as a youngster growing up into my 20s and into my 30s. It played a major part. What I noticed as I started to reflect back and go back through the years was anytime that I got into trouble, anytime that I got into bother when I was younger, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, it was always around alcohol. Alcohol was always the thing that kind of was a precursor to all those different things. Now, I had some fantastic times, some fantastic evenings, some fantastic memories that I wouldn't change for anything. And that was all around alcohol. Like a lot of great memories, a lot of traveling, a lot of nights out, clubbing, partying, all those different things. Those are just part of my kind of upbringing and part of growing up, I suppose. But for years, there was this inner voice. There was this inner voice, like this intuitive voice that always kind of came up, which was, if you want to get to the next level, you're going to have to stop drinking. Now, I couldn't really understand what that was. I didn't really know exactly what that was. But it was always present, it was always there. And I suppose to be open, I had like within me always wanting to like do more, always wanting to be more, always wanting to be more successful or to grow in certain ways. But intuitively that voice would always keep reappearing. And that voice was, if you want to get to the next level, you're going to have to stop drinking. Now, I couldn't have told you what the next level was back then. And I'm going to share a wee bit more on that as we go through and what I've experienced as it is. But that voice kept popping up that you're going to have to stop. And that voice got louder and louder as I got into my 30s and into my late 30s. But if I'm being honest, back then I didn't really have the courage to listen to it. I didn't really have the courage to stop. I didn't have the courage to just say, okay, enough's enough. There was still probably a lot of peer pressure there. And maybe I was enjoying it in some way or form at that time as well too. Now again, the pattern is, for me, I was a social drinker. It was weekends and then longer weekends. And as I said, some of the best nights of my life I had on those weekends. But anybody that's listening to this who is in their 30s or 40s will definitely be able to realize and recognize that the recovery time when you are drinking like that is longer and longer and longer. And they just started catching up. Those weekends started catching up. Even if it had just only been a few drinks, they started getting heavier. And my Mondays started getting heavier. And the energy also started getting heavier. And the positives were just being completely outweighed by the negatives. You can shake a hangover pretty easy in your 20s. You can go out and kind of have a blast and get on with it. and then just get back to work and go full steam ahead again for the next week. But in your late 30s and into your 40s, not so easy. So the biggest issue for me wasn't really in my health. I've always been active, I've always been fit, I've always been training consistently. I wasn't really feeling it there. Well, I tell a lie, I kind of was, obviously. I'm feeling it in my energy. But the biggest thing that I was getting was kind of in my mental health. I was feeling it here more than anywhere else. And that started to get to a point where I really started to question myself, because alcohol is a depressant and it's impacting us in ways that we probably don't even know unless we take ourselves away from it. And what I started to do was just question myself more and more. Why am I actually doing this? Like, why am I drinking, even though deep down I feel like I don't want to do it? So those weekends, like, started getting a bit longer, and they also started to get that wee bit heavier. And what was really annoying for me, and I think what was really important for me, and I suppose was a catalyst for me stopping alcohol, was I wanted to achieve more. I wanted to attain some of the goals that I said that I wanted to go after. I wanted to grow within myself more. I wanted my business to grow more. I wanted to go and do the things that I've said I always wanted to do. But with alcohol, I kept kicking the can down the road. I just keep putting it off. I'll get to that in the next day, or I'll get to that in the next week. And it would get put off and put off and put off. And you might be able to resonate with that. Maybe that's something that you have experienced or are experiencing right now. And if it is, drop it in the comments. But what for me was most annoying about that was anytime that I kicked the can down the road and procrastinated on what I said was important, I would start to beat myself up. And beating myself up used to really obviously grind on me. It used to really get me down, because I knew deep inside I wanted to do these things. But alcohol was making me procrastinate, kick a can down the road. And what it was also doing was it was robbing me of my energy. And more importantly, it was robbing me of my confidence. It was starting to get me to belittle my goals and ambitions. It was getting me to think twice about my goals and ambitions. It was having me second guess myself and my own capabilities and my own value and self-worth. And as I said, I think years ago I didn't really even think about those things. I just went out and drank and had a good time and all those different things. But as I started to get older, I started to question that more. I started to question why I'm actually doing that. And in around 2019, I said, okay, I'm going to give it a break. And I did. And I gave it a break for around 12 months. And in that 12 months, I experienced something that I hadn't really experienced before, because it was the first time that I'd ever not had a drink in my adult life. And in those 12 months, everything shifted and changed for me. My energy was through the roof. I felt more productive, more focused. I was moving towards the things that I wanted to achieve, etc. I just felt better. Anybody that's listening in that's giving themselves that break will know what that feels like. I felt better. And then 2020 came around, and I think everybody knows what happened in 2020. And I said, okay, I went back into the old patterns, started having a few drinks again. And when I started having a few drinks again, I fell back into that pattern. Now, what I did say was, well, if I'm going to have a few drinks again, I'll be able to control it this time. And I'm not going to go back to the way that it was before. I'll maybe drink this drink, and I'll maybe have it at this time, and I'll not have it that day. Lo and behold, that didn't work out. I ended up back into those same patterns again, where it started to just, again, take up more of my energy, more of my focus, consume my thoughts, and started to take over in ways that I didn't want it to take over. And here's the truth, and I'm going to be really truthful here. When I had went back drinking again after those 12 months, inside, every time that I was doing it, I knew I didn't want to do it. And inside, I was trying to kick that habit again, but I found it so hard. And I wanted to get back to how I felt that 12 months before, when I wasn't drinking. Because I knew what that was like. I experienced what that was like. And I experienced how kind of free I felt from not drinking at that time, mentally. And I wanted to get back there. But truth be told, I found it hard. I found it hard to kind of get back to where I was before. And it took probably I think it was about a year and a half or so before I got back to going, okay, enough's enough, and I want to get back to being booze free again. And here's the thing. Like for me, I work with so many different people, men in business, and a lot of the times when we are looking for productivity, when we're looking for change, when we're looking to create shifts within ourselves, we think about all these different things that we need to do. We think about adding in, okay, I need to exercise more, I need to hydrate better, maybe I'll add in some meditation, maybe I'll do some breath work, maybe I'll do all these different things that I need to add in order for me to feel in a certain way. But the biggest thing that I've realised, and the biggest thing that I see time and time again, and I see within myself, was I didn't need to add in more. I needed to remove something that just wasn't adding anything to me anymore. And for me, that was alcohol. And when I removed that thing, then all the other things that I was already doing started to improve anyway. But more than anything, all the other things that I was doing to give me a feeling, to bring my energy back again, to release anxiety, etc., all these different things, that one thing, when I removed that, just improved all that anyway. It really started to make a massive difference. I didn't even realize at the time, like, that low level anxiety that I had until I had went off it, until I had given it up. And what I always say to clients and people that I'm working with, or people that ask for advice when I share stuff like this on social media, I get a lot of messages. And what I always say is like, once you give yourself that bit of time, like at least 60 days to 90 days, for me, I noticed that low level anxiety just started to disappear. I didn't even realize that it was there. I didn't realize I had it until I'd actually removed that thing. And as I said, I wasn't drinking every night of the week or anything like that. It was weekends, but there was enough in those weekends for it to become an issue that was impacting me mentally, impacting me physically, and impacting the areas in my life that I wanted to really improve on. So what I found was, it's not about adding in more, it's subtracting. And as I share time and time again, as I said, when you take away that thing, all the other areas in our life begin to improve. I noticed it in my relationships. I noticed it in my relationship with my wife. I noticed it in my business relationships, who I was surrounding myself with. I noticed the opportunities that started to arise. Again, a few years ago, I sold a business that I had for 12 or 13 years. One that I knew I wanted to exit, one that I knew that I'd kind of run its time with, but maybe I didn't have the courage, or maybe I didn't have the strength to actually make that decision finally and just do that thing and move towards the thing that I'm doing right now and build a new company and a new business. But when I wasn't drinking, and when I stopped drinking, I had clarity, I had focus, and I had that discipline within myself to, I think, go and do those things. Now, there's been so many different opportunities that have opened up over the last 4 years since I haven't been drinking. And I can honestly say that a lot of those opportunities have come because I haven't been drinking, because I know the person that I was when I was drinking and not getting around the opportunities, not putting myself out in a certain way, not expressing myself in a certain way, not thinking big enough to do those things. And I know that those opportunities have come around as a byproduct of me not drinking anymore, because my confidence improved, my productivity improved, my energy improved. Every different aspect of my life began to improve when I started to remove that. Not even including and talking about, obviously, all the health implications and all the health benefits that you get from not boozing. So maybe it's about, for you listening into this, if this is resonating with you, maybe it's about removing something that would actually influence all other areas in our life. Your own self-worth, your own self-esteem, how you think and feel about yourself, what you want to do with your life, how you're thinking about your goals and your ambitions. More than anything, maybe just having that sense of peace of mind within yourself to go about your daily actions, your job, your career, your work, whatever it might be, with a sense of clarity. That's what it gave me. And from the men that I work with and coach, I see time and time again the guys that give it a break, give themselves a chance, give it the 90 days, 60 days, or even 6 months. Some guys have went off for longer, and some of them still don't drink. I see the shift in them as well. So if that's where you're maybe at, and maybe you're thinking about those things, then again, I'm going to share my experience with you of what's worked for me and what I see working with other people as well too, when they maybe give themselves that chance. So what I want to share is the 3 things that really helped me give up booze over the last 4 years, and that you could maybe use in your own life if this is resonating and if this is something that you want to do. Then number 1, what I did was I reframed it. Because when we think about giving up anything, whether that is going on a diet and losing weight or giving up alcohol, we think about all the things that we lose. So I had to reframe it for myself, and I got to look at what it was I was actually gaining. And so many times we don't look at that. So we think about, I can't now drink at a wedding, I can't drink at my birthday party, I can't drink at holidays, etc. All the things that we think that we're losing out on. But I started to reframe it and look at what I was getting to gain. I started to gain better health, I started to gain more focus, I started to gain more productivity, it got better energy, it got more opportunities, started to express myself in a different way, do the things that I've always wanted to do instead of actually procrastinating on it. So I started to look at what it was I was getting to gain. So number 1 is start to reframe it, start to look at it differently, shift and change your perception of it and see it as a gain instead of a loss. Number 2 was don't think that it's forever, because if you put such a pressure on yourself, like I'm never doing it again, I'm never drinking again, then a lot of the times we create a big void, and when we create a big void, we want to fill that void. So what I did this time round was I didn't say that this is going to be forever. I just said that, you know what, I'm giving it a breather, I'm giving it a miss, I'm fed up with it, I'm going to give it a few weeks, I'm going to give it a couple of months, and I just went with the flow. And when I went with the flow like that, it didn't create as much resistance, I didn't create as much pressure for myself, and I actually enjoyed that process that wee bit better. So number 1 was I reframed it. Number 2 was I didn't give myself added pressure by saying I was never going to do it again. It's one of the biggest things that you can do in order for you to move towards maybe kicking this habit. Number 3 was getting around the right type of people. So your environment is crucial. You want to be in a good support network. You want to be around people who are doing the same thing as you and who share the same sort of values, the same sort of habits. Get in and around people who are on that journey and can give you their examples, how they overcome certain challenges, give you their insights that will really, really help you whenever you get maybe pulled in a certain direction, or maybe you're second guessing yourself and thinking, is this worth it, etc. It's always good to get around other people who have been on the same path that can really lend a hand and give you a word and give you a bit of advice that'll really help you again stay on that path. So number 1 is reframe it. Number 2 is don't say it's forever. Take it a day at a time, week at a time, month at a time. And then number 3 is your support network, getting around people who are on the same path as you. Now, in closing this, again, I just want to highlight that this isn't for everybody. Not everybody needs to give up alcohol. I'm not demonizing in any way, shape or form. It's not that you're better if you don't drink compared to people that do drink. If you enjoy it, brilliant, rock on, happy days. My wife still drinks, my clients still drink, I have friends that still drink. So it's not about like you have to give up alcohol, or if you actually enjoy it, that you should feel guilty for enjoying it. Not at all. But if it is something that you're thinking about, if it is something that's been like that quiet nudge of intuition that I was getting time and time again, if it is something that you want to give up and try like doing less of, then maybe now's an opportunity to look at, okay, maybe it's time to give myself a chance. Maybe it's time to give myself 30 days, give myself 60 days, give myself 90 days, and see what that feels like. Once you do it and you see what that feels like, then decide what you prefer. Do I prefer feeling this way, feeling more energetic, feeling more focused? Do I prefer not drinking compared to drinking? Then it's a decision. It's an informed decision to say, well, I'm going to carry on in this way. And because, again, if you're looking at this from especially a business point of view, which is the vast majority of people that I work with, and you want to increase productivity, you want to become a better leader, you want to show up with more energy, you want to show up with more focus, etc., then for me it's a no-brainer. And it's definitely a no-brainer to give yourself that opportunity and that chance to do that. So if this is resonant with you and this is something that you feel and it's something that you've been thinking about, something that you want to try, then I'd love to hear like what it is for you. If you can drop it in the comments, maybe share your experience, maybe share your challenges with it. Maybe again, if you have already kicked that habit, then maybe share what you did below in the comments that might be able to help other people who are watching on also. Okay guys, see you in the next one.